Good morning guys, hope everyone's doing well. I recently did a video on stretching, so I'm going to build on that with a video on hamstring stretching in particular and try and make us better at doing hamstring stretching and avoiding some of the pitfalls that happen with hamstring stretching. So without any further ado, hamstring stretch. The main problem I see with hamstring stretches is if we want to isolate the hamstring stretch, and I see this in clinic all the time, I'll say to someone as part of a test that we do for flexibility, I say, can you put your hands flat on the floor when you stood up with your knee straight? And I can actually see some people, I cannot, who can go down and bang and put their hands flat on the floor. I'll then measure their hamstring later on in the session, just isolating hamstring, and a hamstring measurement is way under what is even a normal range, 160 to 170 degrees of hamstring motion, and they can't get there. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute, they put their hands flat on the floor, yet their hamstrings are appearing as really inflexible. Why is that happening? For a lot of people, and this may be you, it's not actually your hamstrings that are enabling you to touch your toes when you stood up or put your hands flat on the floor. It's actually the lower back. And the lower back has actually got so much range of motion in it that it gives the presentation of having really good hamstring flexibility, but you don't, guys. And actually, a lot of people are throwing an imbalance into their body by doing stretching, doing a hamstring stretch from here down all the time, constantly stretching their back, and our hamstrings are like, I just can't cope with this. So the lower back does all the stretch. We then go into a sporting environment potentially and get a hamstring injury. And we're like, well, hang on a minute, my hamstrings are really flexible. They're not. It was the disguise that your lower back was getting in. So to avoid that, we can do a couple of simple things. First one is, I'm going to show you two different stretches. First one is waiter's bow. This is how we get around it. Waiter's bow is a standing hamstring stretch. So what I'm going to do, it's all about the curvature in my lower back. I don't want my lower back too round. So what I'm going to do is belly button, opposite my belly button, about L3 on my spine. If you're interested in that information, is I'm just going to grab the skin. Obviously I'm going straight through my top here, but so I could go underneath, grab the skin, but for this purpose I grab hold of a piece of skin. Now that's between my thumb and first finger. Form the stretch, legs fractionally over shoulder width apart, and all I'm going to do is what's called a waiter's bow. As if I'm a waiter, they say, holding a tray, and I'm going to send my bum backwards, picture paints files on this, bum backwards into this bow position, keeping my head not in neutral alignment. And the idea or the trick here is that my fingers should hold onto my skin. If my skin pops out of my fingers, I know I rounded my back. So to avoid that, hold the skin, bum back in, once I'm in position. Now I can feel the stretch. You might be behind a knee, just above, or up top, wherever is your restriction is where you're going to get it. Hold that for 20 seconds, then come back out and repeat. So that's one way you can avoid the flattening of the lower back. Stretching on the floor. Now here's the key one to stretching on the floor. Stretching on the floor, if you have an office job, you've sat at a desk a long time, out of the two, this is the one for you. This is your most important piece of equipment, a towel. You're going to roll the towel to approximately the thickness of the widest part of your hand. So I'm just going to go there. There's some leftover towel, as you can see, that goes up the body, not down the body past the bum. So I spin this around, I try and get in position. Towel goes opposite my belly button, where the natural gap should be. So I'm going to kind of try and get into position for this. So there it is. Now what my back can't do is it can't flatten because the towel will prevent it. I actually need that a little bit higher up. There we go. So to perform a hamstring stretch, you would keep your head down. So I'm in a relaxed position. I'm going to do my right leg and I'm going to take it perpendicular to the floor. So my hip to knee is straight up, holding behind the thigh in this area. So there's a thigh, behind the thigh, head down. And I'm going to bring my foot, if you look at the angle of my right foot, bring my foot up. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to start straightening out the leg. There's my position. I can feel the tension and I'm going to hold that for 20 seconds. Clearly I've not stretched out much today already. I hold that for 20 seconds. Do not lift your head up like I am. And then allow it to relax. And then we're going to go back in and we're going to repeat that 3 times. Send it to the other side, do that, repeat that 3 times. And the whole idea here is so that lower back doesn't flatten. So if you imagine my head's here and this is my pelvis, this is my lower back. really rubbishy design, I know. The lower back should have a natural curve in it. If I didn't put the towel underneath, my hamstring will go up, the pelvis would rotate, and then my back would flatten, and my hamstring would go, oh, we're getting that really far now. That's not the truth. It's because the back flattened and the pelvis rotated that you look like you've got great hamstring flexibility, but you don't. So by putting the towel in, the leg goes up, the pelvis can't rotate, the back can't flatten, and we get dunked here, go, oh, that's the reality of where my hamstring flexibility is. Oh, really glad I found that, so I can increase my flat hamstring flexibility. So if I'm in a situation like I'm bending down to pick up an object, that my hamstrings can't do it and it overloads the lower back because the hamstring can't get the length in it, or we go into compensation and we get back injury. If I was sporting scenario, I'm in kind of like a rugby position here, where I'm going down to pick the rugby ball up, a loose rugby ball. If I don't have the hamstring flexibility to allow me to do that, I put extra strain in my body. And heaven forbid I'm a rugby player that I pick the ball up and some wily tackler hits me at the same time. So I've got a low down position with a hamstring that won't let me get into position, body going into compensation, and then getting a side on impact and wonder why, as a rugby player, I run into problems. Anyhow, that's a 6-minute video about hamstring flexibility, waiter's bow, and the laying down flat, leg up, knee extension with the towel hamstring stretch. 20-second holds on each. Generally in the morning is a really good way of getting your body going and waking up and making a change to your hamstrings. Anyhow, I'll catch you in the next one. Hope that video is useful.